Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 71, we are starting today. The Lord travels to Indraprastha. So in previous chapter, we were discussing how Krishna was in Dwarka and he was taking care of all the family affairs, and he was in the Sudharma hall, and then a messenger came from the kings who were imprisoned by Jarasandha. And then Narad Muni came and Krishna asked him how Pandavas doing. Narad Muni said they are fixing to start Ratsriya Yagya. So then Krishna asked Uddhavji, what should I do? Should I go to help the kings held captive by Jarasandha, or should I go to Indraprastha? So let's see what Uddhavji says. Text 1. Shri Shukuvacha iti udiritam akaranya devarisher Uddhavo abravit sabhyanam matam akyaya Krishnasya cha mahamatihi. Shukdev Goswami said, having thus heard the statements of Devarshi Narad and understanding the opinions of both the assembly and Lord Krishna, the great-minded Uddhav began to speak. Shri Uddhav Uvacha yaduktam rishina deva sachivyam yakshya tastvaya karyam patrishvasya shreyasya raksha cha sharanarshina. Shri Uddhav said, O Lord, as a sage advice, you should help your cousin fulfill his plan for performing the Ratsriya sacrifice, and you should also protect the kings who are begging for your shelter. Devarshi Narad wanted Lord Krishna to go to Indraprastha and help his cousin Yudhishthira perform the Ratsriya sacrifice. At the same time, the members of the royal assembly strongly desired that he defeat Jarasandha and rescue the kings he was holding prisoner. The great-minded Uddhav could understand that Lord Krishna desired to do both things, and thus intelligently advised how both these purposes could be simultaneously accomplished. Yishtavyam Raja Suyena Dikchakra Jaina Vibho Ato Jara Sutajaya Ubhyartho Mato Mama. Only one who has conquered all opponents in every direction can perform the Ratsriya sacrifice, O Almighty One. Thus, in my opinion, conquering Jarasandha will serve both purposes. Shri Uddhav here explains that only one who has conquered all directions is entitled to perform the Ratsriya sacrifice. Therefore, Lord Krishna should immediately accept the invitation to participate in the sacrifice, but then he should arrange to kill Jarasandha as a necessary prerequisite. In this way, the king's request for protection would be fulfilled automatically. If the Lord will thus adhere to a single policy, namely seeing that the Ratsriya sacrifice was performed properly, all purposes would be fulfilled. According to Srila Chittapati Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, one of Lord Krishna's qualities is Chatura, clever, which means that he can perform various types of work at the same time. Thus, the Lord could certainly have solved the dilemma of how to simultaneously satisfy King Yudhishthira's desire to perform the Ratsriya sacrifice and the imprisoned king's desire for freedom. But Krishna wanted to give his dear devotee Uddhav the credit for the solution, and thus he pretended to be perplexed. So this is Krishna's mood. He always wants to give credit to his devotees, so they get the glories. Asmakam cha mahanartho hiyete neva bhavishyati yashascha tava govinda ragyo baddhan vimunchata. By this decision, there will be great gain for us, and you will save the kings. Thus, Govinda, you will be glorified. Of course, devotees' uh, business or plan is always to glorify Krishna. And Krishna wants to glorify his devotees. This is completely out of love. Savai durvishaho raja naga yutsamo bale balinamapi chanesham bhimam sambalam vina. The invincible King Jarasandha is as strong as 10,000 elephants. Indeed, other powerful warriors cannot defeat him. Only Bhima is equal to him in strength. Sridhar Swami explains that the Yadavas were extremely eager to kill Jarasandha, and thus to caution them, Sri Uddhav spoke this verse. Jarasandha's death could come only at the hand of Bhima. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds that Uddhav had previously deduced this from the Jyotir Rag and other astrological scriptures he had learned from his teacher Brihaspati. That Bhima, because he is equal in strength and only he can kill Jarasandha. Of course, Krishna can kill anybody, even if the other opponent looks mighty. But Krishna, again, he wants to give the credit to Bhima. द्वैरथे सतु जेतव्यो मा शताक्षोणिहीनीयुतः ब्राह्मण्य अभ्यर्थितो विप्रैर न प्रत्याख्याति करहिचित्. He will be defeated in a match of single chariots, not when he is with his 100 military divisions. Now Jarasandha is so devoted to Brahminical culture that he never refuses requests from Brahmins. It might be argued that since only Bhima could equal Jarasandha in personal strength, Jarasandha would be more powerful when supported by his huge army. Therefore, Uddhav here recommends single combat or personal combat. But how could Jarasandha be persuaded to give up the support of his powerful army? Here Uddhav gives a clue. Jarasandha will never refuse a request from Brahmins, since he is devoted to Brahminical culture. Of course, in his own way. He is a big demon, but at least one good part was he would never refuse a Brahman. Whatever Brahman wants, he would do it. He would give charity abundantly to Brahmins. Brahmavesh dharo gatva tam bhikshet vrikodara anishyati na sandeho dvairathe tav sannidho. Bhima should go to him disguised as a Brahman and beg charity. Thus he'll obtain single combat with Jarasandha, and in your presence, Bhima will no doubt kill him. The idea is that Bhima should beg his charity a one-to-one fight with Jarasandha and disguised as Brahman. Of course, Bhima is so huge and strong, but to serve Krishna, he did all this. And Krishna also. Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhim, the three of them went as disguised as Brahmins and asked for single combat with Jarasandha. Nimittam paramishasya vishwasarga nirodhayo hiranya garbha sharvascha kalasya rupinastava. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva can only act as your instruments in cosmic creation and annihilation, which are ultimately done by you, the Supreme Lord, in your invisible aspect of time. Uddhav here explains that in fact Lord Krishna himself will cause the death of Jarasandha, and Bhima will merely be the instrument. The Supreme Lord, through his invincible potency of time, creates and annihilates the entire cosmic situation. Whereas great demigods such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are merely the instruments of the Lord's will. Therefore, Bhima will have no difficulty acting as the Lord's instrument to kill the powerful Jarasandha. In this way, by the Lord's arrangement, his devotee Bhima will be glorified. So this is the whole program of Krishna. He loves his devotees so much. He wants to glorify them. Gayanti te vishad karma griheshu devayo dhagyam swashatruva Dhammatma vimokshanam cha gopyascha kunjarpaterjanakatmajaya pitroscha labda sharana munyo vayam cha. In their homes, the godly wives of the imprisoned kings sing of your noble deeds, about how you will kill their husband's enemy and deliver them. The gopis also sing your glories, how you killed the enemies of the elephant king Gajendra, the enemy of Sita, daughter of Janak, and the enemies of your own parents as well. So also do the sages who have obtained your shelter glorify you, as do we ourselves. Great sages and devotees had informed the grief-stricken wives of the imprisoned kings that Lord Krishna would arrange for the killing of Jarasandha and would thus save them from their crisis. These godly women would thus sing the glories of the Lord at home, and when their children would cry for their fathers, their mothers would tell them, "Child, do not cry, Shri Krishna will save your father." In fact, the Lord has saved many devotees in the past, as described here. So this is what Uddhavji is saying. Jarasandha vadaha Krishna bhuriyarthayopakalpate praya paka vipakena tav chabhimatah krituhu. O Krishna, the killing of Jarasandha, which is certainly a reaction of his past sins, will bring immense benefit. Indeed, it will make possible the sacrificial ceremony you desire. Sridhar Swami explains that the word Bhuri Artha, immense benefit, signifies that with the death of Jarasandha, it will become easy to kill the demon Shishupal and to realize other objectives. The great commentator Sridhar Swami further explains that the term Pak indicates that the kings will be saved as a result of their piety. And the term Vipakena indicates that Jarasandha will die as a result of his wickedness. In either case, the plan Uddhav has proposed is most favorable for the execution of the great Rajasuya sacrifice desired by both the Lord and his pure devotees, the Pandavas, headed by King Yudhishthira. So both the purposes will be served by this, doing Rajasuya sacrifice. Shri Shukvacha iti Uddhav vacho rajan sarvato bhadramachyutam devarshir yadu vriddhascha krishnascha pratyapujayan. Shukdev Goswami said, O King, Devarshi Narad, the Yadu elders, and Lord Krishna all welcomed Uddhav's proposal, which was entirely auspicious and infallible. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that the term Achyutam indicates that Uddhav's proposal was fortified by logical reasoning. Furthermore, Shukdev Goswami specifically indicates by the term Yadu Vriddha indicate that it was the senior members, not the junior ones, who welcomed the proposal. Young princes such as Aniruddha did not like Uddhav's proposal since they were eager to fight Jarasandha's army immediately. Atha dishat prayanaya Bhagavan Devaki sutah Bhrityan Daruk Jaitradin Anugyapya Gurun Vibhu. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, the son of Devaki, begged his superiors for permission to leave. Then he ordered his servants, headed by Daruk and Jaitra, to prepare for departure. The superiors mentioned here are personalities such as Vasudeva, Lord Krishna's father. Nirgammaya varodhan swan sasutan saparichadan sankarshanam anugyapya yadurajam cha shatruhan sutopanitam swaratham ahurad garudadhvajam. O slayer of enemies, after he had arranged for the departure of his wives, children, and baggage and taken leave of Lord Sankarshan and King Ugrasen, Lord Krishna mounted his chariot, which had been brought by his driver. It flew a flag marked with the emblem of Garuda. So, everybody, all his wives, children, baggage, we can only imagine how big the entourage must be. Having accepted Uddhav's proposal, Lord Krishna first proceeded with his wives, family, and entourage to the royal city of Indraprastha, the capital of the Pandavas. The rest of his chapter describes Lord Krishna's journey to that city and how he was received there by his loving devotees. In Indraprastha, Lord Krishna explained to the Pandavas his plan to first to kill Jarasandha and then perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. And with the full agreement, he proceeded with Bhimsena to settle accounts with the wicked king. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Lord Krishna's wives had also been invited to the Rajasuya sacrifice and were eager to go. The description of the colorful royal procession begins with the following verse. तथो रथद विपट विभट सादि नायक करालय परिवृत आत्म सेनेह मृदंग भैर्यांक शंख गोमुख प्रघोष घोषित ककुभो निरक्रमत. As a vibrations resounding from mridangas, bheris, kettle drums, conch shells, and gomukhs filled the sky in all directions, Lord Krishna set out on his journey. He was accompanied by the chief officers of his corps of chariots, elephants, infantry, and cavalry, and surrounded on all sides by his fierce personal guard. Huge group, huge entourage was going to Indraprastha. Nrivajikan Jikanchana Shibikabhirachyutam Sahatmaja Patimanu Suvrata Yayu Varambara Abharana Vilepan Sasrajaha Susambrita Nribhir Sicharma Panibhi. Lord Achyuta's faithful wives, along with their children, followed the Lord on golden palanquins carried by powerful men. The queens were adorned with fine clothing, ornaments, fragrant oils, and flower garlands, and they were surrounded on all sides by soldiers carrying swords and shields in their hands. According to Sridhar Swami, the word Vaji indicates that some of Lord Krishna's queens were transported by horse-drawn conveyances. Naroshtra Gom Hishkarashva Taryanaha Karenubhi Parijanvara Yoshitaha Swalankrita Kat Kuti Kambalambaradya Upaskara Yayur Dhiyujya Sarvataha. On all sides proceeded finely adorned women, attendants of the royal household, as well as courtesans. They rode on palanquins and camels, bulls and buffaloes, donkeys, mules, bullock carts, and elephants. Their conveyances were fully loaded with grass tents, blankets, clothes, and other items for the trip. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the household attendants mentioned here included washerwomen and other helpers. Balam Brihadhvaj Pat Chhatra Chamrar Varayudha Bharana Kirit Varnabhi Devanshubhis Tumaluravam Babahuravera Yatharanavah Kshubhit Timingalore Mibi. The Lord's army boasted royal umbrellas, chamar fans, and huge flagpoles with waving banners. During the day, the sun's rays reflected brightly from the soldiers' fine weapons, jewelry, helmets, and armor. Thus, Lord Krishna's army, noisy with shouts and clatter, appeared like an ocean stirring with agitated waves and Timingala fish. So it's not like these days we just take a train ticket from Delhi to Dwarka or flight ticket and we reach there. Krishna is moving. King is moving with his family and his army and so many helpers, washermen, cooks, so many people must be there. It's amazing. Atho munir yadupatina sabhachita pranamyatam hridi vidhat vihayasa Nishamya tadvayavasitam ahritarhano mukunda sandarashana nirvritendriyaha. Honored by Shri Krishna, the chief of the Yadus, Narad Muni bowed down to the Lord. All of Narad's senses were satisfied by his meeting with Lord Krishna. Thus, having heard the decision of the Lord and having been worshipped by him, Narad placed him firmly within his heart and departed through the sky. Rajadutamavachetam Bhagwan Prinayan Gira Ma Bhashtadut Bhatrambo Ghate Shyami Magadham. With pleasing words, the Lord addressed the messenger sent by the kings. My dear messenger, I wish all good fortune to you. I shall arrange for the killing of King Magad or Jarasandh. Do not fear. The statement Ma Bhashta, do not fear, is in the plural, being intended for both the messenger and the kings. Similarly, the expression Bhadramva, blessings unto you, is also in the plural, expressing a similar intent. Iti yukta prasthito duto yathavad vad nripan te api shanam shaure pratyakshanyan mumukshavaha. Thus addressed, the messenger departed and accurately relayed the Lord's message to the kings. Eager for freedom, they then waited for the meeting of Lord Krishna. The great Vaishnava scholar Srila Jiva Goswami comments here that by force of circumstances, the kings began focusing their attention on Lord Krishna alone. So this was their time. Now they could focus on him alone, that when and how Krishna is going to come and rescue them. Anartha soviram runsa tirtva vinashanam hari girin nadir tiyaya urgrama vrajakaram. As he traveled through the provinces of Anarth, Shavir, Marudesh, and Vinashan, Lord Hari crossed rivers and passed mountains, cities, villages, cow pastures, and quarries. So Marudesh is Rajasthan. Tato drishtadvatim tirtva mukundo ath saraswatim panchala nath smatsyansha shakra prasthamatagamat. After crossing the rivers Drishtavati and Saraswati, he passed through Panchal, Matsya, and finally came to Indraprastha. So Panchal is Punjab actually. But that time the boundaries of Punjab must be a little bit more. And that's how he crossed Punjab and came to Indraprastha from Dwarka. Tam upagatam akarnya prito durdarshanam dhranam ajata shatrura nirgata sopadhyaya suhrid vrita. King Yudhishthira was delighted to hear that the Lord, whom human beings rarely see, had now arrived. Accompanied by his priests and dear associates, the king came out to meet Lord Krishna. Gita Vaditra Ghoshena Brahma Ghoshena Bhuyasa Abhyayats Rishikesham Prana Pranamevadritaha. As songs and musical instruments resounded along with the loud vibration of the Vedic hymns, the king Yudhishthira went forth with great reverence to meet Lord Rishikesha, just as the senses go forth to meet the consciousness of life. So this is for devotees, Krishna is a conscious. Without Krishna, we are practically dead actually. Lord Krishna is here described as Rishikesha, the Lord of the senses. And King Yudhishthira's rushing to the Lord is compared to the senses, eagerly joining the consciousness of life. Without consciousness, the senses are useless. Indeed, the senses function through consciousness. Similarly, when the individual souls are bereft of Krishna consciousness, love of God, they enter into a useless and illusory struggle called material existence. Pure devotees like King Yudhishthira are never bereft of the Lord's association, for they keep him always within their heart, and yet they feel special ecstasy when they see the Lord after long separation as described here. Drishtva Vikilan Hridaya Krishnam Snehena Pandava Chirada Drishtam Priyatamam Sasvaje Ath Puna Puna. The heart of King Yudhishthira melted with affection when he saw his dearmost friends, Lord Krishna, after such a long separation, and he embraced the Lord again and again. Dorbhyam parishvajya ramamalayam Mukunda gatram nripatirhata shubha leve param nirvritim mashru lochano Hrishyat tanur vismrit loka vibhramaha. The eternal form of Lord Krishna is an everlasting residence of the goddess of fortune. As soon as King Yudhishthir embraced him, the king became free of all the contaminations of material existence. He immediately felt transcendental bliss and immersed in an ocean of happiness. There were tears in his eyes and his body shook due to ecstasy. He completely forgot that he was living in this material world. The above translation is from Prabhupada's Krishna book. But this will happen to anybody who embraces the Lord, who takes shelter of the Lord. They forget that they are in the material world. In fact, many years ago, some of us had the greatest opportunity of embracing Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri. And it was really out of this world experience. It was amazing experience. Tammatuleyam parirabhya nirvrito bhima smayan prema jala kundlendriya yamo kiriti cha suhritam muda pravriddha bashpa parire bhire achyutam. Then Bhima, his eyes brimming with tears, laughed with joy as he embraced his maternal cousin Krishna. Arjun and the twins Nakul and Sahadev also joyfully embraced their dearmost friend, the infallible Lord, and they cried profusely. Arjunena parishvakto yamabhyam avivaditah brahmanebhyo namaskritya vriddhebhyascha yatharhatah manino manya masa guru saranjaya kakaya. After Arjun had embraced him once more and Nakul and Sahadev had offered him their obeisances, Lord Krishna bowed down to the Brahmins and elders present, thus properly honoring the respectable members of the Kuru, Srinjaya, and Kakaya clans. Srila Sridhar Swami mentions that since Arjun was considered Lord Krishna's social equal, when Arjun tried to bow down to him, Lord Krishna held Arjun up by his arms so that he could only embrace him. The twins, however, twins mean Nakul and Sahadev, being junior cousins, bowed down and grasped Lord Krishna's feet. So intimate relationship Krishna had with Pandavas. Sudha Magad Gandharva Vandinaschopa Mantrina Bridanga Shankha Pataha Veena Panava Gomukha Brahmanashchara Vindaksham Tushtuvur Nanritur Jaguhu. Sutas, Magas, Gandharvas, Vandis, jesters, and Brahmins all glorified the lotus-eyed Lord, some reciting prayers, some dancing and singing as mridangas, conchas, kettle drums, veenas, parnavas, and gomukhas resounded. Evam suridbhi paryastah punya shloka shikhamani sastuya manu bhagwan vivesha lankritam puram. Thus surrounded by his well-wishing relatives and praised on all sides, Lord Krishna, the crest jewel of the justly renowned, entered the decorated city. Srila Prabhupada writes, while Lord Krishna was entering the city, all the people were talking among themselves about the glories of the Lord, praising his transcendental name, quality, form, etc. Sansaktit Vartma Karina Madgandha Yoto Yash Chitra Dhvaja Kanak Torana Purna Kumbha Mrishtatma Bhir Navad Kula Vibhushana Srik Gandharan Ribhir Yuvati Bhishcha Virajmanam Uddipta Deepa Balibhi Pratisatma Jala Nirayat Dhuparuchiram Vilasat Patakam Urdhanya Hema Kalasha Rajatoru Shringa Jushtam Dadarsh Bhavana Kururaj Dhama. The roads of Indraprastha were sprinkled with water perfumed by the liquid from elephants' temples, and colorful flags Golden gateways and full water pots enhanced the city's splendor. Men and young girls were beautifully arrayed in fine new garments, adorned with flower garlands and ornaments, and anointed with aromatic sandalwood paste. Every home displayed glowing lamps and respectful offerings, and from the holes of the latticed windows drifted incense, further beautifying the city. Banners waved and the roofs were decorated with golden domes on broad silver bases. Thus Lord Krishna saw the royal city of the king of the Kurus. Srila Prabhupada adds, Lord Krishna thus entered the city of the Pandavas, enjoyed the beautiful atmosphere, and slowly proceeded ahead. Praptam nishamya naralochan panapatram autsukya vishlathit keshad ukula bandha sadhya visrijya gri karma patinsha talpe drashtam yayur yuvataya sma narendra marge. When the young women of the city heard that Lord Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure for human eyes, had arrived, they hurriedly went onto the royal road to see him. They abandoned their household duties and even left their husbands in bed, and in their eagerness, the knots of their hair and garments came loose. So this is attractiveness of Krishna. Tasmin susankul ibhashvarat vipadbhi Krishnam sabharyam uplabhya grihadiruda naryo vikirya kusumera manasopaguya suswagatam vidhurutta smaya vikshitena. The royal road being quite crowded with elephants, horses, chariots, and foot soldiers, the women climbed to the top of their houses where they caught sight of Lord Krishna and his queens. The city ladies scattered flowers upon the Lord, embraced him in their minds, and expressed their heartfelt welcome with broadly smiling glances. Srila Sridhar Swami comments that the ladies communicated through their affectionate glances their eager inquiries as to the comfort of Lord Krishna's trip and so on. In other words, in their ecstasy, they intensely desired to serve the Lord. So this is the exact same feeling when Lord Jagannath goes on his chariot from Sri Mandir to Gundicha temple. There are so many people on the roofs of the buildings along the road, and so many of them are pulling the chariots. There's just jubilation everywhere. Uchu striya pati niriksha mukunda patani stara yathodup saha kim karya bhumubhi yachakshusham purusha mole rudarahas leelavaloka kalayo tasva matanoti. Observing Lord Mukunda's wives passing on the road like stars accompanying the moon, the women exclaimed, "What have these ladies done so that the best of men bestows upon their eyes the joy of his generous smiles and playful sidelong glances?" Tatra tatropasangamya paura mangala panaya chakru saparayam krishnaya shreni mukhya hatena saha. In various places, citizens of the city came forward holding auspicious offerings for Lord Krishna, and sinless leaders of occupational guilds came forward to worship the Lord. Srila Prabhupada writes, while Lord Krishna was thus passing on the road and intervals, some of the opulent citizens, who were all rich, respectable, and freed from sinful activities, presented auspicious articles to the Lord, just to offer him a reception to the city. Thus they worshipped him as humble servitors. Antapura janah pritya mukunda fulalochana sa sambramar abhi upeta prafishad raj mandiram. With wide open eyes, the members of the royal household came forward in a flurry to lovingly greet Lord Mukunda, and thus the Lord entered the royal palace. Pritha vilokya bhratreyam krishnam tribhuvaneshwaram pritatmothaya paryanka sasnusha parishasvaje. When Queen Pritha saw her nephew Kunti, her nephew Krishna, the master of the three worlds, her heart became filled with love. Rising from her couch with her daughter-in-law, Draupadi, she embraced the Lord. Queen Kunti's daughter-in-law is a famous Draupadi. Govindam grihimaniya devadevesham andrita pujayam navidat krityam pramodopahato nripa. King Yudhishthira respectfully brought Lord Govinda, the supreme god of gods, to his personal quarters. The king was so overcome with joy that he could not remember all the rituals of worship. Srila Prabhupada writes, as he brought Krishna within the palace, King Yudhishthira became so confused in his jubilation that he practically forgot what he was supposed to do at that time in order to receive Krishna and worship him properly. Pitriswasur Guru Strinam Krishna Chakre Vivadanam Swayam Cha Krishnaya Rajan Bhagyanya Cha Bhivandita. Lord Krishna bowed down to his aunt and the wives of his elders, O king, and Draupadi, and then Draupadi and the Lord's sister bowed down to him. Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Krishna delightfully offered his respectful obeisances to Kunti and other elderly ladies of the palace. His younger sister Subhadra was also standing there with Draupadi, and both offered their respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord. So Subhadra was already married to Arjun by that time. Shwashriva Sanchodita Krishna, Krishna Patnishcha Sarvatha, Anarcha Rukminim Satyam, Bhadram Jambavatim Tatha, Kalinde Mitra Vindam Cha, Shavyam Nagna Jitim Satim, Anyashabhyagata Yastu, Vasa Sringa Mandanadibhi. Encouraged by her mother-in-law, Draupadi worshipped all of Lord Krishna's wives, including Rukmini, Satyabhama, Bhadra, Jamvati, Kalindi, Mitravinda, was a descendant of Shibi, the chaste Nagnajiti, and the other queens of the Lord who were present. Draupadi honored them all with such gifts as clothing, flower garlands, and jewelry. Sukham nivasa yamasa dharma raju janartanam sasanyam sanu gamatyam sabharyam chanavam navam. King Yudhishthira arranged for Krishna's rest and saw to it that all who came along with him, namely his queens, soldiers, ministers, and secretaries, were comfortably situated. He arranged that they would experience a new feature of reception every day, Navam Navam, while staying as guests of the Pandavas. Wow. Tarpaitva Khandavena Vahani Falgun Samyata Mochitva Mayam Yena Ragye Divya Sabha Krita Uvasakati Chinna Masana Ragya Priya Chikirshaya Viharan Vatham Aruya Falgunena Bhattara Vrita. Desiring to please King Yudhishthira, the Lord resided at Indraprastha for several months. During his stay, he and Arjun satisfied the fire god by offering him the Khandav forest. And they saved Maidanav, who then built King Yudhishthira a celestial assembly hall. The Lord also took the opportunity to go riding in his chariot in the company of Arjun, surrounded by a retinue of soldiers. Srila Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, it was during this time that Lord Shri Krishna, with the help of Arjun for the satisfaction of the fire god Agni, allowed Agni to devour the Khandav forest. During the forest fire, Krishna saved the demon Mayasura, who was hiding in the forest. Upon being saved, Mayasura felt obliged to the Pandavas and Lord Krishna, and he constructed a wonderful assembly house within the city of Hastinapur. In this way, Lord Krishna, in order to please King Yudhishthira, remained in the city of Hastinapur for several months. During his stay, he enjoyed strolling here and there. He used to drive on chariots along with Arjun, and many warriors and soldiers used to follow them. So thus ends the purport to 10th canto, 71st chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Lord Travels to Indraprastha. So I guess we can stop here today. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.